10 random magic cards rated day number 141. Happy either cooking stuff or staying out of the way of people cooking stuff day. Everybody, what's the first card of Wednesday? It's River Boa, 2 mana, 1 and a green for a 2/1 snake with Island Walk that you pay green to regenerate. So this is a lot like the other one. This is a lot like River Anaconda, River Snake. Is it just called River Snake? I forget what it's called now, which is really sad. I've played the card a million times. There's a thing from like Mirage or Visions, I want to say. It's just like this, but it has Swamp Walk instead. What is it called? You're going to kill me for not knowing what that is, because I've resolved it 1,000 times. Either way, this is fine. This is a fine card. Against black, you see, the other one again has Swamp Walk and Regenerate, and against black, you'll be using the Regenerate against all of black's removal spells. But against blue, the Regenerate probably isn't as good. And I'm still gonna say it's a decent magic card. Unblockability in a way, and also regenerate for a single green mana that's a fine package, man. It's better than most cards, right? I won't say that, but I don't know if it's better than most cards, but I'm still gonna give it like a 4.7. You know, this isn't a bad magic card, not really. It's not a particularly good one anymore. It used to be a good card, but not anymore. So let's move on to Gus Cloak Skirmisher. That's a hard name to say. That's a series of odd syllables there. This is 4 mana, 3 and all white for a 2/3 bird soldier with flying. Whenever Gus Cloak Skirmisher becomes blocked, you may untap it and remove it from combat. This is originally printed in Onslaught. So I don't remember this from way back in the day, like at all. I noticed it had an Onslaught printing, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll remember this if I look at that. And I don't. I still don't. The same art from Dan Frazier here. Celebrated, vaunted, old school magic artist Dan Frazier, but still, the card itself is not impressive at all. 4 mana, 2/3 flyer that, like, oh, if you mess up, you can remove it from combat. At least you get to untap it. So it's like a pseudo vigilance. It's still really bad though. It's pretty bad. So let's go with like a 2.17. Pretty terrible, all things considered. So, Force Spike is up next. Originally printed in Legends, I want to say. Yes, I'm correct. This is a single blue mana for an instant. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 1. So good. Doesn't look like it's very good, but it's actually quite amazing. It's like most Magic is played on curve, you know, and even if you're not going like 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop, right? Sometimes your opponent is going, 3-drop on 3 and then 3-drop, 1-drop, or 2-drop, 2-drop on turn 4, right? So Force Spike in the first really 5 or 6 turns of the game, especially in back then Magic, where everything cost more for less, unless you're talking about spells, Ancestral Recall and Dark Ritual and stuff like that existed. But when it came to like creatures and big plays and stuff, it's all a lot of mana, so it's really not hard to catch somebody with a Force Spike. This is one of those cards that you have to be taught is good, because you look at it and you're like, oh, that's not very good. And then you play against it. And actually, it's kind of incredible. I don't know how good it's going to be in like Commander. I don't think it's worth the slot there. But back in the day, everybody, this is like a 4 of in a lot of old school control decks. Because it turns out that it's just a 1 mana hard counter on, a lot of early and even mid-game turns. So I'm going to give Force Spike a 6.7 here, mostly because of its history and competitive play. I think that it's mostly outclassed nowadays, obviously, but I'm still going to respect it a good bit. Force Spike will come at you when you least expect it. I gotta say, you always think you're safe until you get hit with a Force Spike. Weapons Trainer is up next. This is 2 mana, a red and a white for a 3/2 human soldier ally. Other creatures you control get +1/+0 as long as you control an equipment. A guy doesn't have to be equipped or anything like that. Just control an equipment, and you guys get +1/+0. Nice little anthem here. I would much prefer +1/+1, but you can't sneeze at this. It's actually got a decent power toughness for its casting cost too. In equipment decks, I just don't see why you wouldn't play this. So I'm going to give it like a 4.84. Because I do think that it's definitely worth a slot in that deck, if no other deck like ever. But 2 mana, 3/2, why not? It's not bad. I'll move on to Utabi Wildcats, baby. This is originally printed in Mirage. This is 5 mana, 4 and a green for a star Wildcats. You can pay a green and sack a forest to regenerate it. And it has power and toughness, each equal to the number of forests that you control. So if you regenerate it, you see it'll get slightly smaller. right? Big deal. Most of the time. It's still pay green mana regenerate on a pretty huge guy. And this was really cool back in the day. I think that Flourishing Bloomkin is probably just like a million times better than this. It's basically got the exact same first bit of text on it, but it costs 2 mana. It costs 2.5 times that. So I think it's, again, mostly outclassed by cards today. But this is in the cat cube. It's a cat. I love cats. And it actually gets like pretty big over the course of the game, depending on like what you're doing. So I like the card. I want to give it the honorary 5, but it doesn't quite deserve that. I do like the regenerate mode on it too, though. I think that gives it a few points. I'm going to give this a 4.4, somewhere in that area. I like the card too much. I really do. 5 mana is a lot for this, but good text box, man. Captain's Call is up next from Magic 2013. This is 4 mana, 3 and a white for a sorcery. Put 3 1/1 white soldier creature tokens onto the battlefield. One of these. You can't really say these are terrible, but you can't really say they're great either. Captain's Call is kind of one of the more mid versions of this effect. You look at like Spectral Procession, right? A potential 3 mana for 3 1/1 flyers. So they fly. All of them fly, and it costs 1 mana less than this potentially. That's amazing. You know, Lingering Souls, 3 mana for 2 1/1 flyers, and you can flash it back and get 2 more 1/1 flyers. I just think there's an awful lot of like better tokens producing cards than this, but there are a few that are kind of in this same basket as Captain's Call, and they're not bad. They're not terrible Magic cards. So I will give this a 4, just a solid 4. I think it deserves it. You know, it's not Hop to It. Hop to It would be like a 4 point. Well, we'll get there when we get there. I don't want to spoil ratings before we get them. Common Bond is up next from Return to Ravnica. This we've done before, so I don't have to do it again. It's a pretty mediocre card, too, so I'm kind of happy that we don't have to do it again. Stolen Grain is next. What? From Portal 3 Kingdoms. This is $13 right now. A lot of Portal 3 Kingdom cards are kind of too expensive, but we'll see what this does, because I'm not familiar with it. 6 mana, 4 and 2 black for a sorcery that deals 5 damage to your opponent. You gain 5 life. So a lava axe that gains 5 life costs 1 more than a lava axe does. Okay. I don't know. You know, it's a Soul Feast. Soul Feast costs this exact same amount of mana, doesn't it? Yes. I think Soul Feast costs 6, right? And that's 4 drain. 4 to them, 4 back to you. Soul Feast was the win condition in Yawgmoth's Bargain. Like way back in the day, a long time ago. You just try to cast literally 5 Soul Feasts in a game or more if you had to. And there are ways to do that because Yawgmoth will let you play cards out of your yard. So you can play like up to 8 Soul Feasts in a game. It's fun combo deck. You're doing that on turn 3. But Stolen Grain, I guess, is like even better than Soul Feast. So like, I don't know, if you're building a commander deck where you are playing like Consume Spirit, Drain Life, Corrupt, Soul Feast, and you play Stolen Grain too, man, just do all the drains, Exsanguinate. It's kind of getting me excited, to be honest. But I think it's pretty bad. So I'm just gonna give it like a 3.4. It's not even that, dude. It's like a 3. This is a solid 3. And it's probably not even that. This card's it's kind of actively bad when you really think about it. I really do. To target opponent or planeswalker. You can also hit a planeswalker, says the Oracle text. But yeah, not great. So we'll move on to Thalia's Lancers from Eldritch Moon. This is 5 mana, 3 and 2 white for a 4/4 Human Knight with first strike. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a legendary card, reveal it, put it in your hand, shuffle your library. I remember when this came out, and I was like, ooh, but it never really did anything. Not much. I feel like this is like a one-of in a couple of decks, but not even for very long. That said, first strike on a 4-power guy is okay, and any tutor and commander is probably like somewhat playable, you know. I guess when it comes to your commander, your legendary guy, you can always get that. You know, it's like the one thing you can't tutor for technically, but there's bound to be other legendary dudes in your deck you care about. So again, like a decent tutor on a body, like it's not terrible, man. I'll give this a 5. I really will. I will throw a 5 at this. I think a 4/4 first strike that puts a really good guy in your hand is probably a commander playable card. Maybe not in like aggressive decks because it costs a good bit, but you know, it's commander. You can play 5 drops. Not a big deal, man. But we'll move on to Crystal Rod's pretty bad. This is a single mana for an artifact. Whenever a player casts a blue spell, you may pay 1. If you do, you gain 1 life. So this, if you want to get the beta, is it really that cheap? Huh. If you want to get the beta version printed here, an uncommon, it's apparently $17. And I said, is it really that cheap? It's almost $20. It's kind of expensive, right? But this is a uncommon from beta. So like $17 ain't that bad. You think about it. Unlimited edition is about $3. It looks pretty too. You know, the art's, it's not like super complicated, but Amy Weber also always has a cool style. And I've always liked the art on Crystal Rod here. But still, yeah, it's whenever any player, not just you, but whenever anybody casts a blue spell, you can gain some life. So that's kind of neat in certain situations, especially if your deck cares about gaining life or whatever. But for the most part, I don't think you're going to put Crystal Rod in your commander deck or anything, or a competitive deck, much less. So, although, you know, people be casting blues. You put this in your legacy deck, you probably gain like a few life. I don't know. It's terrible. So let's put a 3.6 on Crystal Rod. I believe in it too much. I think like the white and black rods are the best because like, or, you know, Throne of Bone in this case, and Ivory Cup, I think they're called, respectively, black and white respectively, are probably better because their colors care more about gaining life, you know, but you can still engineer a situation where this is okay. 3.2, let's revise to 3.2. I think that's probably better, although the card is very likely in the twos somewhere, let's be honest. Rootwater Commando is next. We've done this card fairly recently, so I feel like I don't have to do it again. It's just a 3-mana 2/2 Island Walk Merfolk. So, Sarulf Realm Eater is up next. 3 mana, 1 Golgari for a 3/3 legendary wolf. Whenever a permanent an opponent controls is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on Sarulf. At the beginning of your upkeep, if Sarulf has 1 or more +1/+1 counters on it, you can remove all of its counters. If you do, exile each other non-land permanent with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of counters removed this way. So this came out originally in Kaldheim, and a lot of us kind of freaked out over it. And it didn't do much in Standard. It would show up from time to time as a 1 or 2 of, but it was never really the centerpiece the way you see like Glissa Sunslayer, a creature with a similar casting cost and power toughness in today's Standard is very important. And this kind of wasn't. It doesn't have first strike and death touch, but it does have the ability of left unchecked to kill everything. Non-land permanent is a pretty ridiculous. Not only is it non-land permanents it can blow up, but it also cares about any permanent being put into a graveyard. Tokens touch the graveyard. Treasure tokens touch the graveyard. Yes, they do. Stop. Yes, they do. Look it up. But I always get pushback on that and like, just look it up. Yes, they do. But anyway, this can get counters relatively fast, especially if you have some removal spells or whatever. They have some things out that you want to blow up. And then you can blow up everything else. You know, like a removal spell, Go for the Throat, that blows up a 3 or 4 or 5 drop creature on their end of the table, puts a counter on this, and then blows up all their 1 drops. You know, do it a couple of times, blow up all their 2 drops. So you can concentrate on blowing up the bigger stuff, and Sarulf will just blow up the 1 and 2 drops, which is amazing. It's also each other. Note that it says exile each other non-land permanent converted mana cost less than or equal to. So, you know, if you remove 5 counters from this guy because you somehow put 5 counters on him, it doesn't have to just be with its ability, right? But, you know, you put 5 counters on him, he'll never remove himself, which is awesome. So, I don't know. This is a really, really neat commander. First of all, sweet Golgari commander. You're in good colors for it because you got a lot of good removal spells and stuff that blow up a wide variety of permanents in both black and green. So I just, for that reason, he's awesome. But in the 99, he's really sweet too, man. Like in Commander, lots of stuff is going to go to opponents' graveyards. And again, it's permanents. Just any permanent goes to the graveyard from the battlefield. He starts getting really big, which is good because they're just like, at this point, you paid 3 mana for like a 6/6. That's really good. But, you know, when he starts being able to blow up all the mana rocks, all the soul rings, all the 2 mana, you know, enchantments and stuff like that, then I think you've actually got a pretty special card here, man. I think we need to reevaluate and play more Sarulf is what I'm trying to say. 6.66 for Sarulf. And I'm not going to go back on. I actually think that is correct. If you don't like Sarulf, you need to, tell you, man, reevaluate. I don't know. You're probably not wrong. He's just okay. But I really like this card a lot. And I think that he's got a lot of play in Commander on him. So give him a shot. But anyway, that is all for today. I will see you tomorrow on I'll see you tomorrow on Turkey Day. Gobble, gobble. Bye.